This is A Smaller Life, a podcast about making more conscious and more ethical choices within our crafts. Hosted by me, Sophia de Feiter. I'm a small business owner who wants to grow by going smaller. Together with local makers, I make tools, yarns, and accessories for knitters that want to buy less, buy better, make more, and make it last, keeping away the overwhelm and all the ridiculousness of over-consuming within our crafts. In the podcast, I endeavor to answer the question we ask ourselves before we start a project. What do we buy? Where do we buy? Who do we buy from? Or don't we buy at all, but use what we already have? Because when you think about what you do, you take more time and end up with less of everything. As a result, you'll get a smaller life. In this episode, I invited Sophia Smeekens from Studio Escargot to talk about her business and inspirations. Sophia is a textile artist. She makes Waldorf-inspired dolls using natural materials, and she actually grows her own dye plants in her allotment to dye her fabrics with. She uses a lot of pre-owned fabrics and makes this fairy tale world of characters. It's amazing. We talk about money and the value of our work, and Sophia gives a lot of great tips for starting entrepreneurs in textile arts. She was very generous with her knowledge, and I loved listening to her, especially because it was a very open conversation about money, which I really enjoyed. I hope you will too. Let me know what you think. You can go to the website and leave a message there. Have fun. Again. Oh. Yay, I can see you. All right. Sophia, could you please start by explaining what you do for a living? And just tell us who you are and what you do.
So I'm Sophia. I live in the Netherlands. I have a background in classic upholstery and interior design. And when I was pregnant of my second child, I started to make some fun items for her bedroom, for the baby room. And I made a doll. And other people saw that doll and loved it. And so a few family members and friends asked if I could make a doll for them. And then another friend said, hey, there's a Christmas fair, the Sinterklaas fair. And if you want to come and sell your dolls, that would be very nice. This is like almost 8 years ago. And so I started a little doll company with handmade dolls. And those were very different to the ones I make right now, because somewhere 6 years ago, I already started at the beginning that I was always thinking about not producing in very large amounts, which is also not possible when you're just doing everything by yourself. But for example, I never produced without knowing if they would sell. So I would always work on demand to not make any waste. And then I think 3 years ago I got into natural dyeing and working with vintage and upcycled fabrics. And I always had a deep, profound love for Waldorf education and Rudolf Steiner, how do you say, thoughts behind the whole Waldorf education. And I started exploring that more, and I started to also integrate that more into my work, working with Waldorf-inspired patterns. And I think I now made or am making things Waldorf-inspired, but with my very own signature.
Yeah, I think you have a very specific signature. I think there's a combination of elements that really make it Studio Escargot. Mm-hmm. How would you... First of all, let's talk about why is a Waldorf doll different than any other doll? And then we could talk a little bit about what make your dolls different from the general Waldorf dolls.
Yeah, so you have different dolls. I mean, you have the traditional rag doll, which is made from cloth, and you have several patterns in that, or types. And you also have, of course, the rubber dolls and the baby dolls. And then you have a Waldorf-inspired doll, which is typically has a round head. So you make a head out of a woolen ball. And it also looks like a real baby, as in hands and legs and the body. So all the measurements are correct if you would lie them next to human measurements, I guess. And then they don't have much expression in the face. They always leave that open a bit for a child's imagination too.
Yeah. And then, the materials are a lot different to the touch. And
yes, and I think 90% is organic materials as well.
And how are yours even different from that?
I think I took my work more into nature inspired rather than to human inspired. So I'm very much more into making nature elements, I call them, like a gnome or little elves, or I make sets with a gnome and then toadstools in the fall. And then in spring, I will make little flower bulbs. I always try to make little stories out of it. That's my signature. And also the natural dyeing. And if I'm honest, I think my work is a bit clumsy. It's not perfect because I'm not very good at working with real patterns or following recipes. So I always leave a bit of space open for flaws.
To me, it looks perfect.
Thank you.
Yeah. They have a lot of character.
Yeah, so I have different styles.
Mm-hmm.
I had made this little Christmas elf, and it has very long legs. So that's not very, I mean, a human could not ever have legs like this.
So I'm describing what it looks like for people that will listen. It's a really round head with the eyes are the most clear in the face. It has a little bit blushy cheeks, and there's a shape of a nose, but it's not very distinct. But it does have really cute ears and woolly white hairs, a red head, and a white collar, and very long white legs under a red sweater. It's really cute.
So then these are my personal favorites. I call them elementals. So this is the mother. Very round head, and then I make babies to go.
No, that looks like a monkey, or is that just me?
No, it could
it's whatever you want it to be, right?
There was somebody else that called them monkey people. I leave it open for just everybody to call them whatever they like.
Yeah.
I think that's the nicest thing about it, that you can, if you not give them a real, what's a kader in
a frame?
A
frame of reference?
Then it's for everyone to make.
Yeah, to interpret. Yeah.
And then this one's not finished yet.
That looks like a flower bulby baby.
Yeah.
With a brown face and dark eyes.
Definitely a bit spring inspired already.
Absolutely.
I want to make a pink color around the neck.
That's lovely.
And I was experimenting with little shoes.
No, so cute. I just want them all. Do people buy them for themselves or for kids or for both?
I think that they say they're buying it for their children, but I hear a lot that it's just an excuse.
Yeah.
And I always note that they are art dolls and artisan and not really made to cuddle and rough play.
Yeah.
So I always tell that it's more for decoration, like on your seasonal table or on a nice shelf. And then, of course, you can do some gentle play with it.
Mm-hmm. Do you have collectors, people that
Definitely.
buy multiple? Yeah.
Definitely.
I would say so. It definitely, I'm a collector that wants to be a minimalist.
Oh, yeah, me too. And it always feels so weird for me to have collectors. I'm so thankful for people that keep buying every
Yes.
time that I have a shop update or they buy it from resellers, and they also take the time to write me a little note that, oh, I bought another one of your dolls. And it's like, oh, another one?
Yeah.
Why? You already
But
have 4 or something.
I completely know what that's like because I'm always telling people, don't buy too much, use what you have.
Yeah.
And there I have this online shop with things that I want to sell.
Yeah.
It's a weird push and pull thing to be in, but
Well, yeah, I think it's better to have 5 of my dolls than 5 Barbies.
there you go.
Uh, but yeah,
Yeah,
or 5 Ostheimer wooden toys than 5 plastic nothing thingies from
I
the
would
Action
agree.
or
I would
something.
agree.
Yeah.
Could you also just quickly explain to people who don't know a lot about the Waldorf and Steiner
Yeah.
philosophy and ideas, a seasonal table? I mean, the word kind of explains it, but could
Yeah.
you say?
So Waldorf is very much into nature and connecting to nature. And I think the main thing about Waldorf education is attention and mindfulness. And they try to integrate this into children's lives. So in a traditional Waldorf classroom or home, there's a little space somewhere in a central or in the living room or in the classroom where you have a little altar. Maybe you can call it an altar. There's some people that call it an altar these days, where you keep some things from that specific season.
Yeah. And without wanting to turn this into a whole Waldorf thing,
No. Yes, but I would not like to frame my work only as Waldorf.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was thinking. And Mike said before in the chat, she says it's a perfect modern interpretation of Waldorf. And I really agree. If you look at your Instagram account, you would immediately notice the modern vision that you have. So what kind of the fabrics, you dye them naturally, but what kind of fabrics do you use? What materials? Where do you get them from?
Yes. So for natural dyeing, you can only use natural fabrics. So I use linen cloth, cotton, Nikki velours, which is a stretchy velour. I use a lot of felts. I like that very much. And then I use a lot of vintage fabrics, and I get them from Etsy, Marktplaats, Dutch eBay, friends, a lot of friends, and then friends that know friends that have fabrics, and then they get the stash to me, or my clients even, or followers on Instagram. And they send me messages, hey, my grandma passed away, I'm very sad, but I have a whole bag of fabrics, do you want them?
And do they ask you to make a doll from their own fabric? They never ask me to
make something, but I always offer to make something. And then sometimes they say yes, but a lot of times they're just, no, I'm very happy that they will be used again.
Can people ask you to make something specific for them?
Yes, that's my cherry on top of the cake.
Oh, you love that?
Yes, and I have that on a website as well. I call them family portraits. So you can ask me to make just one person of your family or the whole family, and then send me the fabrics that you would like to have them made of. I once did a very beautiful assignment for a custom order for a family. The woman that reached out to me, her father had passed away. And his favorite animal was a dog, a tekel.
Yeah, a Dachshund.
Dachshund.
Yeah.
And for the whole family, I made a dachshund wearing little short jeans from his jeans, made of the jeans of the dad, and a sweater made from the woolen sweater from the dad.
Oh, that's so special.
And that has always been such a dear assignment to me. And I spoke to a funeral director. She wrote a book, and I will be in it as you can ask her to do these little.
Oh, that's lovely.
Monuments. Yeah, so I'm totally into that. Yeah.
Okay, I think the burning question on a lot of people's lips is, do you also make cats?
Cats.
Yeah.
Yes.
Family portraits with cats.
Yes. I love cats. I love all animals. I
Yeah.
make bunnies, and my daughter is a big bunny fan, so I made her like 5 bunnies.
Yeah. And we could also see from your example before, you also have different skin tones to make dolls.
Yes, of course.
Yeah, of course.
Of course.
I know that. Yes, of course.
Yes.
Cool. So, do you consider yourself a conscious business owner, and why?
I struggle with it because, yes. And then we get back to the discussion that we had before. It's a push and pull.
Yeah.
I recently, after 5 years of going back and forth, let go of my side job. So I really need to make the money now.
Mm-hmm. Do you have like different sets of values now that did you like stretch out a little bit? Like, I wouldn't do this before, but I will now because I have to earn something.
Not really. I took on a mantra, which is the money will always be there.
That's a good one.
If I need it, I will have a job. I mean, I will have an assignment, and I need to trust the universe. And that sounds really like...
Sounds like something I would say. It doesn't sound like anything.
But I think that's the only way I could take the leap and jump. And this may sound very strange to an outsider, but to me, I'm still amazed that people still every time want to buy my stuff. Every time somebody buys something from me, I'm like, oh, okay. And I always thought there will come a point that nobody's interested anymore. But I'm saying this for 8 years already. And if 8 years have passed by and people still are buying my things, then I think I can trust on my work and on my hands and on my head and my heart that I'm doing the right thing. And it would be dishonest to keep on doing a side job and not fully concentrate on this. But I think a good move for my whole company would be to move the focus from making and selling to making and telling. And,
so smart.
And sharing. Because that's the whole initial thing from Waldorf, is that it's an open source thing. And that it's not made to sell. I mean, there's nothing wrong with selling it. But it's made to pass on to your daughter or your son, because sons can make beautiful dolls as well. And what is more beautiful than a handmade gift by your mother that you will take with you for your whole life and give to your children, and then your children can give it to their children. And then it really becomes a heirloom thing. And of course, it's very nice to buy it from me, and then you can treasure it as well. But I feel the need to share and to inspire others to make their own things.
Hello, friends. I just want to say something to you quickly. So if you're liking the podcast, if you're liking what I'm talking about, consider joining the mailing list. I have bi-weekly updates on the podcast and or business insights and tips. The occasional exercise to get you ahead. If you want to actually talk to other business owners about the things that I talk about here on the podcast, why not become a Yavol community member for as little as €8.50 a month? That's like buying me coffee and a croissant. But don't do it for me though. Do it for yourself, because I promise that you will get something out of it, either the emails and or the community. So you can either go to the show notes or sign up through yavol.myflowdesk.com/pattern shift. I hope you'll join us. I think you really do that just by making beautiful things. It's easy to be inspired by just looking at what you make. But do you also teach?
Yes, I have started doing workshops, and then COVID came.
Mm-hmm.
And then I tried to do it long distance, so with Zoom. That's not for me.
No.
I mean, I need to be able to get the doll that somebody's making and help them and shape them a bit and then give it back. And I need the human interaction.
Mm-hmm.
But I am working and have sold a lot of do-it-yourself kits. And I have launched my Patreon site again. And there I will share general information on natural dyeing and on Waldorf doll making. And then I have separate tiers. The more you pay, the more information you'll get.
Yeah, yeah. And we were talking about that. It's really hard to ask for money for the thing that you do, especially if it's something that other people do for a hobby.
Yeah.
And this is part of why I'm hosting this club and the community and doing the podcast, is to educate people in general and knitters in specific about what it's like to have a business in this realm. It's like what you're saying, like this information is meant to be shared, right?
Yes.
But we are also learning to ask for the money for the hours that we spend on sharing it.
Yes.
And it's very complicated to be in that position. And I was wondering, how do you figure out your prices for your dolls? And do you get negative reactions from people?
Yeah, well,
if you want to share.
Yeah, of course. When I first started, I also tried to do markets. That was very hard because people just saw the dolls and picked them up. And then, for example, I'm taking the very negative example out. There was a woman that said, "Look, it says handmade, and I can see the machine stitches here." And it's, I think, because when I started 8 years ago, it wasn't a Waldorf-inspired doll. It was a rag doll. They were like 25 euros or something. They were like, "Oh, and it's 25 euros." And it really hurt me. I went home crying that day because I was unexperienced. And I understand, and I still understand, because sometimes when I'm calculating the prices of my Etsy shop, I don't have one price for a doll. It always depends on all the hours I work on it. I'm like, yeah, this is very expensive, but nobody's obliged to buy it. You can say, I won't buy it. And if you really want it, then you can always save up for something and don't buy the 5 other items at another shop.
Yeah.
Because that's the way I do it myself. I deprive myself from other things because, yeah, I can buy a sweater at H&M, but do I really need that sweater right now? Or do I still have like 2 other sweaters that I can wear and then save up until I can buy a very nice sweater from, I don't know, somebody who made it for me, for example.
Yeah, it's a difficult discussion because we all want to be inclusive and we all want to offer our products to everybody. We don't want to say that's not for you, that's not for you. The high price doesn't mean it's for people that are rich. It basically means this is the amount of work that went into it.
Yeah.
And then there's another level as makers where we can think of ways that we can, like by offering kits that are a little bit cheaper, by offering, when you do courses, you can offer, like give it away to some people and then everybody else pays and the price gets a little higher for everybody else. So the people that don't have the money can also follow. There's a lot of ways that you can be creative about making things available for everybody. But I think it's also very important to educate the wider crowd about the amount of work that goes into handcrafted items and the choices you can make. And there we go back to being a minimalist collector, basically.
Yeah, exactly. And then if someone would come to me and And this happened, and it's not something that I want to tell because I want to look good, but there have been people that have followed me for a long time, and I know that they could never afford something that I make, but I gave something to them because, yeah, then it's sharing, and they were very happy with it and would never ask for it, but also would never tell me that they wouldn't understand the price.
Yeah.
And someone who would start with discussing my price, then it's not my problem, it's their problem. And I would never tell you to buy something from me, or like an expensive sweater, which is not even expensive. I mean, the whole word expensive, it gets me. Like,
Yeah.
when somebody, I have people writing to me in the private messages, and they're like, how expensive are your dolls? And I always respond with way too expensive because, yeah, I think we need to stop seeing money as money, but more as something that we invented to exchange energy. Because I would love to skip the money part.
Mm-hmm.
But unfortunately, I live in Holland and I need to pay my mortgage, and I have 2 children and 2 bunnies, and I need to feed them. And I would love for it to be a whole lot cheaper, but it's not. I mean, at the end of the day, at the end of the month, the beginning of the month, I need to pay my bills. And I made the decision that I would like to do that from something I love. So I need to take the responsibility from that. It doesn't mean that I'm excluding people, because if you really can't pay for it, there's always ways to get it by buying a do-it-yourself kit, or I don't know.
There's a lot of knowledge available for free. Like within knitting, you can teach yourself to knit from the internet, providing you have access to the internet. You can ask somebody that knows how to knit, or you can pay for a course that is given by a famous knitter. I think as long as we are conscious about what we're doing, what we're offering, the choices we make, and trying to offer what we can to as many people as possible, but without like killing our own business because of it, because that is never the idea, right?
No, but don't you think it's very funny that we need to make excuses for our prices when we're not the ones tearing down this world?
Yes.
We're not destructing forests. Yeah, do I need to say more? I mean, I think you and me and all small companies need to own up to our responsibility. I don't know.
Yeah, and what we're our worth.
I think, our worth. We're not overpricing. Primark is underpricing.
Exactly.
And is doing so much harm by doing so.
Yeah.
And that's something that you also see on a large scale at this moment with the whole COVID crisis. There are so many people without jobs right now, and not in the Western countries, but in countries where the H&M and the Primark and all the plastic toy stores are buying their stuff from, because they canceled orders. And I mean, I'm out of words. So I think
we need to make a collective deep sigh.
And I think we need to own up to our worth. And again,
I agree with you. No, like we don't have to explain it. I think there's a difference between explaining and educating.
Yes.
And being open to a conversation and being willing to answer questions, all that kind of thing. But it's also very important to feel strong in what we do and just have more of a confident vocabulary about money and earning to ourselves.
Yes.
Because a lot of us are very social, very loving people, and we tend to be a little bit down about this side of the business. As soon as it's about money, we're scared to say, I just want to make money with the thing I love most.
Well, that's not my prime goal. My prime goal is to be not happy, because you can't always be happy. Life isn't always happy. but like we say in Dutch, tevreden.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm most tevreden when I'm able to be there for my children at home. And if I can do this, what I love, this is what I love. I love to make my own little stories. And I think if I'm happy, I'm passing on that happiness, because people are emailing me and texting me on Instagram like, oh, every time I see a picture, and they're not even buying my stuff. That's totally okay. I'm so happy to see your little stories. And yeah.
And so how's that going? Like mixing business with the kids around right now?
At the moment, it's chaos. But I have an 18-year-old and a 9-year-old. So I only have to do one. But the other one, I really need to. I mean, I don't, but I really need to.
Good. Gotcha.
Check if. I need to.
Right.
Yeah. So he's a big help also. But in general, my days are, I help my daughter with her homeschooling. We start the day by taking a walk for an hour, and then she starts homeschooling, and I'm trying to do the things that I don't need to use my head for. So I'm making the dolls' heads, like I can wind up the wool for the dolls' heads, or I make little drawings that go with my do-it-yourself kits, something like that. We work until 2. Then she has the afternoon. Sometimes she goes to play with a friend. Sometimes they come over here, and then I check if I can do some emailing, or always very light work. Then I work in the evenings. So my husband comes home, we eat, and then I work in the evenings until 10, 11. He takes Fridays off because he really needs to go to his work, so he can't work from home. So he takes Fridays off, and I work Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
Right.
Yeah.
So when you're talking about skills, like you can choose to do certain things with your kids around and other things you need to have focused attention. I want to know some things about skills, and also because you were talking about the DIY set.
Yeah.
Let me start by asking, where did you learn your skills?
In my studio.
Just by doing?
By doing.
Definitely.
I took 1 or 2 courses from the mother of all Waldorf dolls in Holland, Ineke Gray. But I do have my background in classic upholstery. And I learned a lot of sewing, but also specific sewing, like round pillows or curtains or draperies. So I had a lot of sewing skills I already had. But the making, this sounds weird, awkward, but textile I can do.
Yeah.
It comes naturally.
Yeah.
I mean, when I want to draw something, I have something in my head and it always comes out differently. And I'm so frustrated. But when I think of something and I'm like, yeah, and then I'll do this. And it always turns out the way I want it. I mean, always, yes, there have been like 5 or 6 times that it's a bit different than I want.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but textile I can do. Yeah.
So what would you say if somebody wants to buy a DIY kit or a set? What are the basic skills that they need, like with sewing?
Well, it's necessary to be able to do the simple sewing machine thingies, like that you know how to cut out a pattern and then put it up on, that you know that you always need to cut your fabric out with a bit more.
Yeah. Lots of mattress stitch, right? The sewing.
But I explained them, and that is also why I want to extend my Patreon. I want to make short movies in which I do the mattress stitch and the invisible stitch, all the stitches, the hand stitches that you need to make a doll. Mm-hmm. I want to have them on my Patreon, so you can always, like a cookbook, you can always come back to it.
How to boil an egg.
How to make lasagna.
Sometimes I have to look that up. I'm like, was it 8 minutes? Do you put them in when the water's boiling? Or do you put it in from the beginning and then wait 8 minutes? I have to always look it up.
Yeah.
I'm not even ashamed. How long would you say it takes to make a doll Like, I know that some are much more intricate than others and you have
Yeah.
the sets, but could
Yeah.
you?
Well, that's a very difficult question, because if you would look at it from a very sec point of view, just sitting, taking the fabric and making it, it would take me like 1 hour and a half. It depends on which doll, because like this one, the Christmas elf, it took me like 3 or 4 hours because the hair.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not only the making, because for my reselling, for my wholesales, I have 4 types of dolls that I do. So that's also already preset, and that's very nice to do, because then I don't have to think, I can just make them. But for my Etsy sets, and this is something that I know sounds weird, but it's something that needs to come to me. So I can't force myself to make it. And then sometimes I have something in my head, like a doll with some accessories, and then I lay it out together and I'm like, nope, this is not it.
Mm-hmm.
I need to make other accessories, or the colors won't work. And then I need to do the natural dyeing to make my materials, because I don't have the pre-made materials. And the natural dyeing is also a very time-consuming process. It's not something that you just do and always have the same outcome, because the natural dyeing is like a topher ball. It's like the magic gum. It always comes out different.
Oh my gosh, I'm suppressing so many swear words because
Why?
Because holy shit, your dolls are like totally cheap. If you're talking about this, like I'm like writing things down. I'm like, okay, right, that many hours, that many hours, that many hours.
Yes.
There's no way.
No, in the end,
you
I
can
could never
ask like
for the complete honest price.
Yeah, and I think we all know that, but it's really good to have that split out, because just making the doll makes the doll cheap for what you ask for them. It should be almost twice the price that it is, and then adding all the extra things to it 3 times, 4 times.
Because now this is going to be my 2nd year into my allotment garden, where I am growing my own plants to dye.
Mm-hmm.
And that's also something. I don't go to a shop and buy my dyeing stuff. I'm collecting that. So I'm taking these walks with my daughter. And then I'm collecting the elder cones that are lying around, or I see nettles somewhere and I need to get the nettles, and then I see and I never think of all these hours. But if I don't do those hours walking or gardening, I don't have my dyes.
And the funny thing is, it's literally a natural thing to collect them for you, but at the same time, that's a smart way of doing things too, because then you don't have to pay for them, but you are investing your time, which is also money. It's harder to explain.
So how am I not paying it for
you are
I
paying
think
for
I'm paying
it.
more for it than just simply going to a store.
Yeah, you are.
Yeah.
So there's no way you can do this like in a spreadsheet formula type of thing, figuring out like, okay, so I have this amount of fabric and I bought it here and it was wholesale price, and then there's no way to do that. So do you have like an app where you track time while you're working on it, or do you like...
I'm really bad at this and I always miscalculate. For wholesale, it's more simple, because then I have a fixed price per doll that I know I'm working this amount of time on the doll, and this is the amount that goes into the material, the price that goes into the material. So then, but every time I talk to my bookkeeper, he's like, Sophia. How come this is such a natural thing to you? And then
that's exactly why. Because this is natural. There's no space for the other stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I've learned a lot in the 8 years. In the beginning, I have given away so much. Not only just the physical things, but also my time, my knowings, my expertise. I just gave it away. And like my friend said, money is just something that we can touch, but You can charge your energy. That's okay. And you do it through money. That's just something we pass our energy through. It's okay to ask for money.
Yeah.
I'm still learning.
But the way to think about it is it's like a process to you have to imagine like shells or beads instead of what we know as money. Maybe that helps.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
Or plants or bread or I don't know, pottery or a beautiful sweater that somebody makes for me.
Do you do swaps?
I do.
I do too.
I do. Swaps are perfect.
Yeah.
I mean, there's an end to swapping.
Of course.
Things
you can't swap your dinner on the table. Well, you could, but it'll take a lot of time.
No, but I love to swap with my sister doll makers. I think that's very important to do.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I could talk to you for ages because it's the same, but then it's fabric and not yarn, but it's still so much the same.
But it's in the end, it's the same.
Yeah. And we're all looking to find balance in all these things. So what would your tips be if anybody wants to start a business in crafts, textile art, when they start?
First of all, it needs to be something that you're passionate about yourself. So never start doing something because you think that's an easy way to make money, because it isn't. This is not an easy way to make money, and I know because it's not. The easy way to make money is to go work in the supermarkets or something. You need to be passionate about it. And then you need to accept that there will be moments, days, weeks, sometimes even a month that you're really like, really, I quit. Why?
Another doll head.
That's something. Never underestimate the time and energy you need to put into social media. That's a whole nother aspect because I have a hate-love relationship with my Instagram account. So 5-6 years ago, I deleted my first account. I had 20,000 followers and I deleted my account because I just couldn't. And so it took me 6 years to get back to almost a 20,000 again. And I would prefer that it would be just 2,000, but real followers. So I really have the input and the feedback. So never underestimate that because you really need to work with that, whether you like it or not. And then take it as a job. Really take it as a job. Do not think, I can do this like I thought. When I started this job, I had my second child and I thought, she can lie next to me in the basket and I'm sewing away on my machine.
I thought the same thing. I'll just bring them to the shop. I'll put them in the basket. I'll be fine.
Yeah, the first 3 years, my daughter never slept besides from in the carrier or with us in our bed. And I was so sleep deprived.
I remember one time when my partner had to bring my daughter to the Handwerkbeurs, the fair, because I was breastfeeding and she wasn't having it.
Same.
And then he had to take her and I just carried her on my body for the rest of the day while I was working. I have never been so exhausted. I think it's definitely a little bit different for most moms to have a business and kids. And still. Yeah. Those were some great tips, but there are also warnings. What would you say is the most fun or wonderful thing you have now that you wouldn't have if you had a supermarket job or something else?
Yeah, so I can be at home with my children. I have the benefits that my studio is in my home. That's a benefit, but it's also a counter benefit. But I can make my own world and I can be in my own bubble.
Yeah.
But it really needs to be something that you're passionate about, because I don't think you will reach that point where you can just be in your bubble and make that world.
Yeah. So last question, would you say you are an introvert or an extrovert?
introvert. And I know people don't notice, but I'm going to say it blunt. But if I don't, I mean, this lockdown for me is, I mean, it's nice, but 24/7 with my children is a lot for me. I need to be at least alone, I think, for several hours a day. Yeah.
Here.
So Saturdays, Sundays, my beloved husband and very devoted father is taking my daughter out, and my son is going to his own father. Then I have the time to be in my studio, and those are the moments that I make those little stories and sets. And
yeah, great. Thank you so much. Thank you for all these.
Thank you for inviting me.
You could be my sister from another mister.
Oh.
I really love talking to Sophia about the value of handmade items and how to decide what they should cost and who are they for. It's a very interesting conversation. It's something I think about a lot, and I would love to hear your opinions about it. Please let me know. Send me messages either through email or just easily press a button on the show notes. We have a recorder there where you can leave a voice message. I would love to hear from you and keep the conversation going. Thanks for listening. It was awesome to have Sophia with us. I really, really, really enjoyed it. A Smaller Life is more than just a podcast. It's connected to Javol, an indie yarn and tool shop from Rotterdam in the Netherlands, with an online community that's all about bringing back the consciousness in our crafting practice and businesses. The website is www.ja-wol.com. Find our Conscious products, learn more about the free community, and sign up for our Conscious Knitting Club membership and our weekly newsletter. You can follow me on Instagram at Javol Rotterdam. If you're a regular listener, consider making a monthly contribution and becoming a sponsor through our Patreon page. If you're able to make a financial contribution, it would mean a lot. The show is free for you, but it's not free to produce. If you own a business that fits the narrative, I will happily make a mini commercial for you. If you are a maker, small business owner, or otherwise experienced in running a business with a conscience, or know someone that fits the description and want to tell my listeners about your experiences, get in touch with me via the website or send me a DM on Instagram. Knowing more and choosing with a conscience makes the world better. If you have any questions about an episode or want to leave a note to me and the other listeners, click the button in the latest show notes on the website and talk. One of the easiest things you can do to support the podcast is to leave an honest review on Apple Podcasts. Subscribe to the podcast on the platform of your choice so you'll never miss an episode. And share it in your social network or even just mentioning it over coffee with a friend. I'm only one person and I count on you to help me spread the message. Thanks for listening. Bye.